Today I'm going to be talking 6-liter Powerstroke daily driver performance with Austin Denny. He's been on the podcast before. If you're a 6-liter enthusiast, you've definitely seen his race trucks out there competing at UCC and a bunch of different events. I wanted to chat with him and ask him, how much power can a 6-liter Powerstroke make, be daily driven, and then also reliable? So I'm looking forward to hearing his answers. Before we get to it, want to give a shout out to a couple of the sponsors that help make the Diesel podcast possible. We appreciate Kershaw Knives being a partner on the podcast for such a long time. If you're in the market for a knife for EDC, hunting, fishing, something around the house, around the job site, they've got a complete lineup of knives really designed to meet any budget. You got a ton of choices for different opening mechanism, blade steel handle design, blade shape. We've got a ton of new releases that they've had this year. So if you're in the market, definitely head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com. Check out what they've got. They've got a great value. They have an excellent reputation in the knife world. I've got a few of them myself. So if you're in the market, they'll get you hooked up and get you some quality gear. Also, we recently started an apparel company of our own called Rugged Threads Co. You're going to find a link down below. We wanted to be able to have t-shirts and hats and mugs and things like that with things we'd wear ourselves. And kind of like the shirt I'm wearing today, keep the shiny side up. There's a bunch of different designs. I wanted to thank you guys for the tremendous response, all the orders that we've had. We've really been humbled by it. We're very grateful. And you guys had a lot of cool suggestions too. Some really funny things for sure. So we'd love to hear you guys' feedback. So if you're interested, head on over to ruggedthreadsco.com. Check out what we have there. And I just want to give you guys a shout out and thank you for all your support. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Austin Denny and talking about 6-liter Powerstrokes. Austin, welcome back to the Diesel podcast. How you been?
Doing pretty good, man. Been good.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen you've been doing a lot of racing, truck stuff, dynos, a whole bunch of things. I really enjoyed our last podcast, learning about you, your trucks, your passion for 6-liter. So I thought it'd be cool to catch up with you on the trucks that you have, how they've been performing, some maybe challenges, things you're trying to overcome, goals you have. So definitely looking forward to chatting with you today.
Heck yeah, let's do it.
Which truck you want to start with? You want to start with the race truck, the crew cab? Which one are you thinking?
Whatever one you want, man.
Talk to me about the race side, because I saw Shy Diesel Extravaganza was just this past weekend. Tell me about this year with the race truck, how you felt you've done, how the trucks perform, maybe some things you're working on, challenges, goals that you have for the remainder of the year.
Uh, well, this year, I think last time we were gearing up for UCC, we swapped 9-inch axles into the Pro Street truck this year, and we're excited about that. We dropped almost, I think it was a little like 520 pounds off that chassis. So then I had to turn around and hang 200 more pounds back on it to go race Pro Street at 4,400 pounds. Kind of sucks. But no, we got that done. And then still last year, we thought there was some stuff to gain in the 60-foot, trying to fight how violent the truck came alive. And we thought the answer was to do some converter stuff. So we went down to trying like a 10-inch converter. And at UCC, that's what we ended up fighting. We didn't, at the time, we were questioning because we made so many changes and didn't get time to test before UCC that maybe it was like tuning with the gear ratio change, like the PCS telling different shift points. So, but it ended up being the converter pushed the complete the seal off the pump, so we didn't have lockup. So the trans was shifting just fine. Just I was running no lockup, and the truck's not built to do that. So at 300 feet, it was smacking the 6,000 RPM rev limiter, and for one pass, I just stayed in it because I was getting irritated. Not the smartest of decisions. And then all night we kept questioning other things and just the hustle and bustle and chaoticness of UCC. We should have took a breath, stepped back and looked at the truck and thought like, what the heck's going on? And swapped one of the other converters we have because we always carry at least 2 of them with us. But we didn't. We went up there for the dyno after we ran the truck on jack stands. We thought it was doing everything fine. When you run a truck on jack stands, you can't really tell if it's locking up. It just kind of feels like another shift. Like,
Yeah.
So we thought we did, and then we went up for the dyno, and I smacked it with a lot, and it didn't have lockup, so it quickly went and smacked the limiter real hard and shoved the head gasket on the passenger side clear out the front of the block and torched a nice groove through the deck surface.
Oh,
and
wow.
So then that truck, we came home, we had the engine out. I think I had it out already on Monday, or I stayed up Sunday night when I got home and had it out. And Evan, good buddy of mine. None of this works without him. Today's actually his birthday, and I told him I'd shout him out. So happy birthday, Evan. He loaded up the truck, and I think it was back up to Warren by Tuesday. We thought we had all the damage figured out and stuff, and everything was fine. Got an engine back 2 weeks before Beach Bend, and it just didn't want to start. All there is to it. We can't figure out what was wrong or what's going on. We've thought maybe the heads were messed up, so Jesse built me another set of heads and sent them to me, and we put them on, and still had the same issue. And that engine still is kind of a mystery of what the heck we got going on because none of us can pinpoint it. And we thrashed for like 2 straight weeks up until Friday night of Beach Bend. I was still contemplating things because my spare engine was sitting in the Pro Mod, and that's what was sitting in the Pro Mod at UCC. And we're like, man, we really don't want to pull that engine out. That's a lot of work, and that truck's really close to going to the track. Like crap. So sadly, we ended up missing Beach Bend, which sucked. That I don't like missing events. It's one thing I really don't. I pride myself on always being at the track and always making events and supporting ODSS and all the people that helped me. And it put me in a bad spot. I wasn't happy with myself. So coming up to Shide, we're still fighting that engine. We ended up just making the decision several weeks ago. We pulled it's an engine that Evan and Alex, the other guy that helps me on everything, they joke and call that engine Old Faithful. It's a 40 over block from back when I used to race 670. Still has cast pistons in it, and it's not concrete filled. So I know I have to be gentle on it, but they always joke that the engine it's like the smoothest running one we've always had. We don't know why. Just one of those good ones. And I'm like, guys, no, this is a risk, right? And they're like, it doesn't matter. It'll be fine. So we pulled it out of the Pro Mod and stuck it in the Pro Street, and we went to Shide. And once again, we had that same converter in, not fully thinking at the time what was going on. We thought we had everything fixed in the trans, and we thought, oh, well, the converter wasn't the problem. Maybe it just pushed that seal out freak thing at UCC. I made the first pass, and it went to the 300-foot mark, and it was about to hit the limiter again, and I lifted because I was only planning to go to half track still. But you can just hear the difference of the truck when it doesn't lock up. Like, it's just screaming in RPM. And it coasted like a 598 at only 95 miles an hour. And I'm like, man, if we figure out how to make this thing shift, we're going to be fine. At the time, still thinking it wasn't shifting. Well, finally, we kind of made the decision like, all right, let's just go back to the old stuff that we had and put a new seal on, put the old converter in, and it first pass, it ripped down through there at a 528 at only 132 mile an hour. And still being gentle on the engine, I was only using like 1,600 horsepower, which previous times to go that fast, we were using close to 2,000. So I was tickled pink. I was so happy with that truck finally. It was like driving a Cadillac down there on the new axles. And then a wastegate bellow decided to unravel because hey, EGTs and pressure get hot sometimes, and I don't fully pay attention to stuff, but I noticed the wastegate leaking. Oh, that piece of stainless got wedged up in the wastegate, so I went up to race Justin. The truck would not spool, so I'm not the guy that's going to hang somebody out in the light, so I just rolled in, took the beam, and took my nice little easy stroll down the track as Justin went like 490s. But I was still tickled pink. The truck finally made a good rip. All that work we did over the winter swapping the axles finally showed that, hey, it's going to make a huge difference and this thing's going to be fast. So,
would you say that getting that pass in overshadowed, or maybe that's not the right word, but overcame some of the frustrations that you had earlier with the previous setup, and it kind of it's like a light at the end of the tunnel as you finish out this year and head into next year?
Oh, 100%. I was relieved during the pass because the truck locks up before I get out of the 60 foot. And the second I felt it lock up and it threw me back in the seat even harder, I was like, oh boy, here we go finally. And it went through the pass, but it was so smooth on the old Super Duty axles and the bigger tires we used to run that I still had to drive the truck a lot. Like it was still trying to kind of wander around a lot. And we went to the smaller tire and I was like, it was just one of those really smooth, lackadaisical passes. And everything went fine. I'm like, man, I don't know if that was fast or not. And at Wagler, you can't see the scoreboard. If you go past, like, the scoreboard's at the finish line, so you can't see your time. I was like, man. So then I turned off the track and got the ticket. And finally, once I got the ticket, I was like, thank God. And then we were all joking around that like the amount of normally we run, I think they're 0.1875, they're two mega jets, and I run those at 100%. I used to when we were trying to go really fast, and we put 93 jets in there, and I only ran the maximizer at 65% on the second and third kit of nitrous. So we were like, man, I don't even know if this thing's going to do anything. It might be slower than crap. But we were just kind of looking around like, what the heck just happened? How did we go that fast on? Like, we ain't pulled that much power out of that truck in 3 years. And we were just blown away. And the mile per hour showed it. I mean, it only went 132, but it was quick through the middle, and the gear ratio change made everything so happy, and losing 500 pounds off the truck. Yeah. I mean, we last year were racing that truck in Pro Street at like 4750, and now we have a couple like 10-pound plates that get mounted under my nitrous bottles in the cab with me that every time we go scale, because every track's different, we're kind of looking at like, hey, we can pull another 10 pounds, go ahead, get that 10 out of there. We're trying to be right at that 4,400 pound mark. So it was good to see. And just knowing that when we do put another engine back in there that we have, I mean, I've had track calculated power of 2280 almost. And that was when I went 144.99, so 145 mile an hour. Just knowing that you have that much more horsepower still on tap is like, it was just a good feeling finally, you know, like, hey, I have a truck that runs after a weekend of racing. I didn't have to destroy it to try to go fast and be competitive.
Yeah.
And we're right there.
I wanted to ask you a bit before the race, like with the frustration part, because I think that applies to not just people who are racing, but then also, I mean, it can apply to work, it can apply to business, it can apply to a restoration somebody may be doing, where you run into these setbacks. So before you hit the light at the end of the tunnel, what helped you and the people who help you keep focus or just stay focused on that goal? Because it can be so hard when you just have a bunch of setbacks, a bunch of things that happen, and especially if you don't know why or you can't quite get the answers. Like one of those things is enough to really frustrate you, but you had like 3 more to that or 5 more or 10 more to that. It's just like, oh man, what do I do? So I'm really curious about your mindset in approaching that and then persevering through it.
Man, we didn't even get into all of it. During UCC, I was already starting to get down on myself a little bit because I was just like, man, if we figure out what is going on here, I can win the drag race part. Kenny Bruner went I think he went a 532, which is flying in that truck because that truck is big and heavy. And I was like, guys, this is like the event we should be doing good at, and we're like 5th. And like if it just does what it needs to do, we're going to win this. Like I can go that truck, I'm confident can go 20s consistently pretty easily, obviously now. So I was starting to get really mad. And then when I went up there and did the dyno smack, I was kind of like, what are we doing? Like, we're just breaking things here. And then I guess we can add what I did with the crew cab into that later. I wasn't done for the weekend. But getting into that, I was like, man, okay, we figure out what's wrong with the trans or what's going on or why we're having this problem. And we get the engine fixed, we'll be good to go. We'll go to Beach Bend, which I really enjoy that race and going to that track. That track is, if nobody's ever been to Beach Bend Dragway, they need to go there. It's one of the most different atmospheres. I've never pulled into a drag strip where there's an amusement park and water park going on in the same place. Like, it's wild. And then the old covered grandstands and stuff, it's a cool track. And we were debating with just waking up and driving down there just to be there for the event. But there was moments going in and leading to that. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Like, why are we still beating ourselves up? I mean, in the years past, we had fought. Last year, it was splitting blocks all the time. We were just keep digging through that. And I think Evan has a nice little saying where he always just goes, the show goes on, man. Like, what are you going to do? Quit now? And I'm like, no, I guess I really can't. You know, there's 2 trucks out there, 2 trailers. Like, you're this far into it. It's not like you can just hang it up. If I hung it up right now, I'd have more people looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing? Versus anybody that would understand. So I took like a week off where I just didn't even go to the shop or look at anything. And then Alex, like, he's the main dude that helps me. That guy, if we go to the track, people like to say I don't work on my own stuff because they see Alex just working on everything. And I'm like, man, it's at the track. He tells me to just focus on driving. And that's what I love. And if he needs any questions, he'll come over and ask me. And then I get to talk to people as they come by and give them my attention. And the truck's ready to go, and I ain't got to worry about it. But he's also my boss at work, like during the day at our day job. And I finally came into work one day, and he's like, "So, like, you ready to get back out there? Are we going, or what the heck are we doing, man?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we started just thrashing, and one Sunday I just had like 4 or 5 guys come over, and I had Richie Prancic, Mike, Austin King, uh, Dak showed up, and a couple other guys, and they started pulling the engine out of the Pro Street truck. Me and Richie pulled the engine out of the Pro Mod, and I think we had it swapped in like 3 hours, and it was almost ready to be fired up. But just having the support and those guys around just to like keep my head up, and then Jesse constantly telling me like, "Don't worry about this. We'll get this shit figured out, and just keep doing what you're doing. Keep going. Keep busting ass." And yeah, I would have to say having the crew cab though really was uplifting my spirits because I was like, man, thank God we got something to go play with right now.
I wanted to ask you about that because I saw some posts and things that you had done with it, and a dyno run, and it's a beautiful truck. So I wanted to ask you about that one, go into a little bit more detail on it. And I mean, it's for the power it makes, something you can drive to a dyno and then drive home. Like that's what is at the heart of, I think, what drew us all into diesel at the start was having the power, taking it, racing it, driving it home, taking it to work, and then doing it all over again the next week.
Oh, 100%. I joke all the time with my dad. There was a moment when we used to run the Pro Street truck in 670, and it had a passenger seat in it. Me and Dad drove it to breakfast one morning with a roll cage in it. Old people walking out of the diner looking at us like, what the heck is this thing? And obviously now I can barely drive the thing down the road. But the crew cab was the first truck that started everything for me. That was the thing that I started drag racing in. And 2 winters ago, we decided I had just one of those deals where I had accumulated enough parts, and people were like, "You want to, you don't really need anything for the Pro Street truck this year. You want to, what are you doing this winter?" I was like, "We're gonna build the crew cab." So we built an engine for it. It's got Cali rods in it, a Colt Stage 3 cam, high rev valve springs from RCD, and just some good push rods. So very similar to the engines I used to run in the Pro Street truck before really we start going to forged pistons. So the bottom end of that thing's stout. And then Larry's like, let's put compounds on it. And I'm like, okay. So I called the guys at Bullseye, and I was like, I already have a 476 in this thing as a single. And Dave up there's like, cool, let's hang a 488 out front. And I'm like, all right, let's do that. And then Larry whipped up a compound kit, sent it to me like a couple weeks later. The turbo showed up. I swapped the oil pan, and we had compounds. And first drive on that truck, I was like, oh, hey, this thing is a lot more lively now, and it spools way better. And that's really what the compound conversation kind of started about, is driving a 6-liter out with a big single 400 on it is just, with the injectors, it has a set of Warren 330 150 injectors in it. Driving that around, it's a smoky pig at times, and it just doesn't really get on top of the Chargers. 6-liters just don't drive Chargers like the Cummins guys do, or the common rail guys. So going compounds, it helps full time immensely. Cruising down the interstate, it runs at like 6 pounds of boost now versus 0. And yeah, that was the goal of the truck. I wanted to be able to make 1,000 horsepower and drive it. And the last event, it was a close enough event where I was like, if I break the truck, I'm okay, because I have problems not being content on the dyno now with that truck. I keep wanting more out of it. So that's usually the problem. And my buddy Ron Maple's always there to ghetto fog it if I want him to, on top of the 3 kits of nitrous that are already on the truck. But yeah, we drove it 2 hours. It made just like, I think 1,260 horsepower or around that area. And then I drove it 2 hours back home.
There's a part that, when I'm thinking back to kind of the journey of being a diesel enthusiast, is like you get that first truck. It might be stock for a little bit, and then you usually get like a programmer, and like intake exhaust, and then you break something else. Could be a transmission or something like that. And you start this process. And then the goal used to always be if I can have 1,000 horsepower daily driver. And then I don't know if it was like 6, 7 years ago. It's like the power levels just went insane. It was like 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, now over 3,000 horsepower. And it can be kind of intimidating. I think it's changed the landscape a bit of the performance side, where some guys will sit back and go, I don't have the money or support network to build a 2,000 to 3,000 horsepower truck. So why am I even going to start? But I could tell you're really passionate about this crew cab and really passionate about what it does. How would you compare the excitement between going out there with your race truck and then also being able to fire up the crew cab, drive 2 hours away, make 1,200 horsepower, drive it back, so that they have an idea of, because I really think they're equal levels of enjoyment. They're just different.
100%. The crew cab being what it is in the journey, and it's always been that reliable girl to me. She's always just sitting there ready to go play no matter what. The Pro Street truck can blow up at any moment just because that's the nature of that truck. And then the crew cab's just sitting over there in the corner, like, can we go play? Like, I'm bored, and I'm like, all right, let's go. But that's the truck that got everything started for me, and we did it. And then when I wanted to go race 670, I tore the truck apart and robbed parts off of it to build the 670 truck and put it back to stock. And that didn't last for very long. I think like 6 months. And I was like, wow, this is boring. And I started accumulating parts again. And then I had it painted. And then it's just spiraled out of control the last 3 years. And now, like, I just got done with Nitrous Express and ordering some more solenoids and stuff just for that truck, so I can quit putting Ron in danger. I don't like people standing in front of things, ghetto fogging them. I will do it openly. I will never deny that. He wants to get in front of that turbo. That's up to him. But it's a different thing. I get out of that truck. The first dyno pull it made, we took that truck. The Pro Street truck was still at the fab shop, and me and Evan loaded the crew cab up on the gooseneck, and we went to Hoodies with it. And I was like, man, we ain't made no passes. I made a couple of hits in front of the house, and I'm like, they look fast. Like, I don't know if they're going to run. The goal was to run 770. Well, now that ODSS has those rules where they're like, you got to qualify in the top, I think 16 for 670 and 770 to even get on a ladder. Yeah, its first pass, it went 740 in the street tune on fuel, and it was like hanging at shift real bad. And I was like, man, I got out of that truck. So you would have thought I just went fours in the Pro Street truck. I was over the moon happy, and it was just chilling in the air dog booth. And Evan looked at me and he's like, are you really that happy right now? And I'm like, man, it felt slower than crap. But this truck just finally went 740s. And that's like when I originally started, I was like, I want a truck that I can daily drive and go run 770. And then we went over and put it on the dyno, and it made over 1,000 horsepower for the first time. And I was just like, oh my, this is cool. And then throughout the summer, just every time I get out of that truck and it does something on the dyno, like that's more what it's done is that's the truck that I take to shows, and going to shows is a different thing for me. I get to just hang out with people, and I don't have to be in a hurry. I don't have to take a 48-foot trailer full of every part in my garage, and I just get relaxed and hang out. And I get off the dyno on that thing, and I'm like, my hands are shaking and stuff, and I'm like, this thing is something different. I don't know. It's hard to compare because the crew cab, you're just kind of chilling in the big lariat seat, and you're relaxing and everything. When I get in the Pro Street truck, you're putting on all the fire suit, the helmet, sock, and everything, and then you're strapped into the point you can't move, and it's just like, you know what you're kind of in for on that deal. The crew cab, it surprises me every time I go out and take it out or do anything with it still.
That's really cool. That's really it. It's just, I think a lot of people can relate to that, and they want it. And like the aftermarket with 6 liters has gotten to the point you can have, like, somebody could build a truck similar to your crew cab and have a lot of fun with it and be able to, daily drive it. And it's really, like, I've never had a race truck, but if I try to think about the different, like, highs of it, I imagine winning a race or getting a time you want. It is like its whole level of euphoria. But it's also really fun when you can just take it to the track or take it to a dyno, have fun with it. and just enjoy it every single day if you want to, and be able to do that. So I think there's still so much performance that's out there that you don't need a 2,500 to 3,500 horsepower truck to really have fun and enjoy it all the time. And maybe in some ways it's even more enjoyable because, like you said, you can enjoy it. You don't have to take a huge trailer with you. You don't have to worry about what you're going to break, what's going to happen. So you get more enjoyment time with it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, going to events without my do trailer, I just throw it on the open gooseneck, chain it down, and when I get there, unchain it, and you ain't got to. It's just way less stress. It's the equivalent when I take the Pro Street truck dirt dragging. It's just way less stress and more fun. But no, I mean, they're still coming around. The thing that I've learned a lot is 6 liters love nitrous, and everybody wants to. I try to help. I think on a weekly basis, I probably try to help 3 people that are just answering questions of what they're like, what they want to do and stuff. And I always ask them what their goal is, and they're like, "Well, I want 1,000 horsepower," and I'm like, "Okay, well, here's a proven setup that I've done that I know will make 1,000, just over 1,000 and stuff." And they're like, "Well, online it says those injectors can only make 800 horsepower." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fuel only." And they're like, "Well, I want to make 1,000 on fuel only," and I'm like, "You don't." It's not an enjoyable truck to go drive. I want to. If I ever recommend something to somebody, I want them to go and drive it and be able to pull away from a stoplight, and not be like having to just gently feather on the throttle because they're worried about the person sitting next to them. And it's just a misconception. Trying to get 1,000 horsepower out of a 6 liter in a street truck on fuel only, I don't care who you are, it's not a fun truck to go drive on the street. And if you have a truck that makes 800 horsepower and there's quite a bit of fuel still left over at wide open throttle, man, you spray a little bit of nitrous to it, and it's going to pick up 200 horsepower like it's nothing.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, DMAX, and Powerstroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. That's a really good point with the drivability of the power levels. And I've talked to a lot of guys that, they would see, I want 1,500 horsepower. And they would build their Cummins to that. And then the truck just kind of sits because they bought something else because it's not fun to drive on the street, or if it rains or if there's any amount of snow, it's not something you'd ever take out. So the truck ends up sitting. So I think being able to guide it to what is usable on the street, can you really enjoy that power, is another kind of aspect to that daily driver, kind of having a fun truck, you can enjoy every day.
Well, that's like the other thing that I've I'm not a big dyno guy. I haven't, out of all my years, this is the most I've ever gotten on a dyno. And the reason I've mainly pushed myself to get on more dynos is because, man, when you get on Cody Polium's dyno on the Superflow, and it's your first time, you don't know what to do, and he's just clicking buttons over there, and he looks at you like, you ready to go? And you're like, I don't know if I am. Are we? Like, I want to get up there with more confidence and know, like, okay, Cody, this is what we need to do. We need to be in this range. Like, I'll tell you when I'm ready. And he just kind of looks at you like, okay, let's do it. I didn't want to have that anymore. So getting the crew cab on dynos, now I show up to like Matt's stories from Blessed. His dyno's been the one we've been on twice now. And just, we know like, oh, hey, but I only want 60% load versus the Cummins guys that loaded down more. And just stuff like that, and being more comfortable up there. It's just like drag racing and making passes, like your licensing passes and getting to know the vehicle and know the truck. But there's also this cool thing called dyno racing that everybody chases numbers for. And people that message me and they're like, well, okay, the crew cab's only ever made 1,600 horsepower on Cody's dyno. And I know it makes astronomically way more power than that. And it's proven it on the track. So that's when sometimes people are always like, well, we want the 1,000 horsepower on fuel only or the 1,500 horsepower fuel only truck. And I'm like, first of all, I've never went to a dyno competition where they're like, yeah, we're giving away fuel only awards. No, you're getting on the dyno. They just want to see horsepower. Nobody cares how you make the horsepower. Just did you make the horsepower? It's my first opinion on it. The next opinion is dyno numbers are a dyno is a tool to calibrate a truck or calibrate a vehicle and learn more and tune it in properly. We're the ones that have turned it into a competition. So just because a dyno says one thing, it doesn't mean that's the peak performance of that truck. And that's why I try to explain to people too. Like, if you go up on a dyno and you don't make a great pull and it only makes 700 horsepower, that doesn't mean you have a 700 horsepower truck. You might still have your 1,000 horsepower truck, but you also might not be able to light the turbo low enough to shock the rollers fast enough to get them going to get the number you wanted and stuff like that. It's just, it's hard. And I'm trying to explain to sometimes to people that, just don't go off just what people dyno. Like, if you really want to know, weigh your truck, take it to the track, make a rip, and then you can get on there on the Wallace calculator, and it'll put you in a really good ballpark of where that truck's making power.
Do you think maybe the diesel industry historically, the performance side of it, made it that way by focusing on the power numbers? Like, if I think back to old magazine covers or forum posts and different things like that, it was always 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower. So in people's minds, they thought, okay, if I make 1,200 on a dyno, I'm going to run this time on a track. I'm going to have all these things that I see this person, featured wherever it was. That's going to be my truck. And the reality could be very, very different.
100%. There are dyno trucks out there, and then there's all-around trucks, in my opinion. There's some trucks out there that I am not throwing anybody at all under the bus. There's been trucks out there before that make 25 plus 100 horsepower on a dyno, and then they go run an 8-second eighth mile, and it's just like, cool, man. But it's getting away from that a little bit. I feel like the 3,000 horsepower number that has been thrown out there multiple times is becoming kind of I almost think we're becoming a little immune to it because so many people, there's 4 or 5 people have done it now. That's a lot of freaking power.
Yeah.
The other thing is most of those trucks can't use that power in their chassis on a drag strip. So I don't know. Just dyno racing is an interesting thing that I'm still trying to learn. It's just like when I go to a show and I hear some people do like the whole hard limiter thing on that people are doing where they just cruise around shows just smacking their Cummins off the limiter really hard. And I'm like, what are you doing? What is that supposed to like prove or show or just sounds cool? I'll agree. It sounds kind of cool, but I'm like, after I heard like 5 or 6 of them do it, I'm like, man, hey, sounds the same. But no, I mean, that's like the I don't know. Just dynos are heartbreakers at time, and that's why there's still no Powerstroke still over broke 2,000 on the dyno. I mean, that was what my goal was at UCC, and that backfired.
Do you find when you go to events or races and people are coming up and talking to you about the truck, do you find that younger people gravitate more towards the race truck or more towards the crew cab?
I feel the thing that I think I've noticed, it's not that there's a certain, I don't know if demographic's the right word, uh, that they gravitate to one truck or the other. I think that the crew cab and me being at like a show and stuff, it makes it seem like I'm more approachable or the truck's more approachable. You can just get in there and look versus the Pro Street truck when it's pulled under a tent and there's 2 or 3 guys constantly like checking over stuff and looking at stuff. Sometimes I think people are hesitant to want to walk up or talk and stuff. And that is the reason that we've changed more where I don't work on the truck that much at races. Like if we break something bad and I need to get in there, will obviously get in there. But Alex knows what he's doing, and Alex can usually. We have a buddy that comes down from Wisconsin who he knows what he's doing. I mean, they don't need me. So if I'm at a track, like I want to talk to people, I want to converse and get more people into this stuff. And honestly, that's what more sponsors have told me this year that it's like, because I'm constantly freaking out. We were missing races and I was apologizing to people left and right. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know you guys got investments in this and stuff, and I'm dropping the ball. And they're like, no, like we invested in you as the person because you're a good guy and we like what you do and how you carry yourself. I want to talk to people. The thing I love the most is I shipped a shirt and a poster to a young kid. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I feel really bad for that. That was last year after the like Wagler Fall National no prep deal Jeremy put on. I shipped him a shirt and stuff. He came right up to me this weekend at Shine and just ran right up to the truck and asked me if he could get in it. And I'm like, heck yeah, you can, bud. Let's go. And he had the shirt on and everything. That brought more enjoyment than anything I could have done on the track. I want people to come up and talk. I want to talk. I like talking about diesel stuff. I like doing this right now. This is what I live for. I don't bust my butt just to be a hermit and not converse. I like just seeing people enjoy this diesel industry is what I enjoy more than anything in this world.
The reason I asked you, it goes right to that point, because I think when I think back, Cummins was what I was most familiar with. That was like, it kind of is still my main interest, but like way back in the day, it wasn't hard to get 1,000 horsepower. You knew what you had to do. You needed money to do it. And you had to build the transmission and do some, valve train stuff and turbo and fuel and tuning. And you could go out and do it. So it was within my grasp as just an enthusiast. I didn't work in the diesel industry. I had nothing to do with it. And I hear a lot of companies, even like sponsors of the podcast, people I have conversations with, they talk about getting the next generation into this, getting them hooked onto it. And so that's why I was really curious, because if I saw both your trucks there and I didn't do this and I wasn't involved in diesel, I would probably be more inclined to talk to you about the crew cab because it's a 4-door 6-liter that I could buy. I could ask you about the setup, how you built it. When I look at the other one, I would think that's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of effort. I'm not sure if I can dedicate it to it. So I would gravitate towards that truck. And like you mentioned the story with the kid that wanted the poster and the t-shirt, he's going to be hooked now. He's going to remember you the rest of his life. He's going to remember the truck. He's going to remember sitting in it. And when he's old enough, he's going to go look to buy that truck and do everything.
He told me next year he's driving it. I was like, man, we have to make some adjustments to the seat and cage here, I think. But his mom said he's been talking about it for the last 3 months, and that's all he can't wait for is to come see me. And it put the biggest smile on my face ever when I saw him turn the corner around the trailer, and I was like, dude, it's you. You're here and you got the shirt and everything. But no, I enjoy the 6-liters because they are a niche crowd of people. Like, you either love them or you hate them, and people that love them really love them. And Greg A has been at most of the shows this year. Oh, Gregory. At most of the shows I've been going to this weekend, not weekend, this like summertime, whatever, the last couple we went to. And me and him have been just having fun playing around on the dyno. Well, he gives me crap all the time if I only make 1,100 horsepower, and I look at him and I go, Greg, it's a 6-liter. There's been 4 trucks make 900 plus, and they're all coming so far. And he goes, nobody cares it's a 6 liter. I'm like, great. Everybody cares that it's a 6 liter doing this right now. Like, it's like you said that the making 1,000 horsepower with a Cummins is kind of easy anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's a recipe out there for everybody. And when I do get on the dyno and I do see people comment on social media and I look around and everybody's just like, that's awesome that you're doing that with a 6 liter and stuff. So the crew cab it's gotten more attention this year than the Pro Street has for sure. But I don't know. I just enjoy it. I enjoy having fun with it and going to shows. Evan is the one that got me going to those when he moved into the house here, and they're just a different animal. And it was a different. I'm going to use the word market because those are the people that I feel like I can help being a younger person in this industry because I'm only 29 years old still doing this. You know, I've already been doing it for almost 10 years. But getting that crowd to show up to more races and be like, hey, man, you can go run ET. I got Evan to start racing ET, and that boy's hooked. He's competitive crap. He took his 22. He swore to me that this was the problem. I'm still not completely sold. He took his 22s off before UCC and traded them for like a set of 24s. And he went and ran at UCC and could only run like a 9.2 in the eighth. And before he was running like 8.9s or something. He came back so mad because that was the only thing he changed. Sold the wheels the next week to get his 22s back. And I was like, he went down the shide and he was back in the eights. And I was like, buddy, you got the bug and this is going to be bad. And it's just, he's having a blast running that truck. I mean, it's slow to me. It's not slow, but he's having a blast. And that's just what I try to tell people. They're like, well, I don't want to break stuff. And I'm like, dude, I promise you probably beat on your truck way harder on the street than you would running ET down the drag strip. Like, it's no different.
Yeah, it's the 6 liters. I've never owned one, but I like them because they're like the underdog story of diesel performance. Like, I think we all can have different engines or brands that that we like for any number of different reasons. But you're right. It's like if I think of 1,000 to 1,500 horsepower 5.9s, I don't even know how many there are. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands of them out there. I don't know. But it's like, if I want to do something different, it's been done in the Duramax world a lot. And especially if I'm a Ford guy and I look at the different engines that are out there, the different, year breaks of everything, that would be the one I would hone in on because I could find the trucks. And I know the aftermarket support is there. Guys like yourself have pushed them to these levels where I could message you and say, hey, Austin, can you give me a horsepower recipe for like 800, 900, and I could spray it to this level? And you could do it, and I have something that's different versus, I don't know, it's something very unique about it that I've come to learn, and there is a very passionate crowd of 6-liter fans. I see them anytime we do a 6-liter episode. We had a lot of people request to have you on after we did the last one, and it's just really cool. It's really fun. Whether you're a Ford fan or a GM fan or Cummins fan, whatever it might be, that passion is just really exciting.
Oh no, there's a diehard crew, diehard community out there, and Zach and Lacey Blair giving away Zach's Cummins. I get tagged every time they post a video about the Cummins, and I'm like, guys, little do you know, Zach actually likes 6-liters. He just bought the truck and it already had a Cummins in it. But anytime they take little jabs at 6-liters and stuff, they're texting me in the background like, get ready. And here I'll get tagged 3 or 4 times, like, come out here and stand up for us. And I'm like, I don't know what you guys want me to do. They're doing their thing, and it just cracks me up, man.
There's probably somebody listening to this that's going to do the scene on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes, and they're going to say, I've had this 6-liter. I want that 1,000 horsepower recipe that Austin was talking about. Can you give me like a quick rundown of what you would say is the recipe to make the power level in an 03 to 07?
03 to 07 to make 1,000 horsepower.
Yep.
If we ignore like just fuel and air wise, obviously, if you're going to play with 1,000 horsepower, a 6-liter can me and Josh McCormick and a couple people have joked because Josh McCormick's ventured into 6 liters too now. They're factory built race engines if you really think about it, because they come with a ginormous bed plate already on them, and the connecting rods from factory are pretty stout. I'm not telling you to go make 1,000 horsepower with a bone stock bottom end. It will blow up. I know somebody's going to be like, "Well, I did it." Cool. Go do it 100 times and come back and talk to me, because I guarantee you, eventually it's going to kick a rod out. So if we ignore that, and you want to make 1,000 horsepower, a set of 330-150 injectors, I still do it on a stock H-pop. Some people want to argue. It's just what I've done because I wanted to try it and see if I can hold enough ICP. And the 330-150s I have not, they don't drop at all. So that's a bone stock H-pop. It's not like an adrenaline or anything. A set of 330-150s, I ran 670 on a 476. I think like a 472, you'll still be able to get there on spray. Nitrous is there's still to some people a misconception of what nitrous is and like what it'll do. They've seen the first Fast and the Furious when the old laptop's yelling at him. It's not the case. As long as back pressure's in check and there's still fuel left, that means there is horsepower just being lost. So if you can atomize that fuel and burn it and add the air, it's all nitrous is, boost in a bottle. Yeah, I like nitrous. That's all I got to say about that. But 330-150s were plenty enough fuel to make. I mean, I just made 1,200 horsepower with them. It's plenty enough to get you over that mark of 1,000 horsepower. There's not. Jesse might have a better input on this. Jesse Warren from Warren Diesel. Obviously, he's the godfather of all this. 6 liters wouldn't be really where they are without him. There might be an injector, but really, in my opinion, it goes from like 250-100s to 330-150s. And just that 330-150 to me is a good 1,000 horsepower injector. And then turbo, it's just on a single, it will be hard. You might need wastegates because you could be overspeeding it depending on if you did the 87 or like a 96. But if you did and called up Larry Steele from SoCal makes one of the nicest compound kits I've ever seen. He's one of the only compound kits I've ever bought where you pull it out of the box and like within 15 minutes, everything's just bolted together and you're like, oh, well, that was easy. If you want to put compounds on it, like you could probably get away with the 369 in the valley and like a 480 out front, and that's plenty enough air to make 1,000 horsepower. It gets a little weird on the turbos of what you want to do and what your goal is,
but there's options there.
Oh yeah, 100%. But the 330-150, in my opinion, is you get that injector in there and it stays happy, and you get tuning dialed in, and that's a solid little unit.
Is the 5R, can that be built stout enough to handle that kind of power on a 6?
100%. 100%. That the crew cab still has a 5R in it. Daniel Ogden from Outlaw Diesel built it for me. Well, it was already built. I bought it kind of secondhand. I knew who built it. I knew what was in it, and just found somebody that was kind of hard up for a little bit of money, and he wanted to get rid of his whole truck, and he wouldn't sell me just the transmission out of it. So I ended up having to buy the whole truck and then part everything else out. But I just wanted the transmission. Daniel went through it, and it's a full built 5R. It has a 6 clutch direct in it. Just all the goodies in it. It's the same. It's realistically a very similar build that I used to run in the Pro Street truck that did still set the record. I think I'm actually 100% positive. I still have the 5R record for that, like I think we went like 543 or something with a 5R in the truck. It was pretty miserable because we had to pull it out about after every event because it would toast the direct clutches trying to hold all that power. But in the crew cab, I like to tell people if you're going to have 1,000 horsepower truck, you're going to have 1,000 horsepower problems. Transmissions are kind of a maintenance item at that point, in my opinion. Like, you're not going to get at 1,000 horsepower, depending on how your right foot is, you're not going to get the 200,000 mile transmission out of it. Like, it's just, you got to deal with all your stuff at times. And 1,000 horsepower problems are sometimes you'll get goofy and break things. Like, I broke a torque converter dirt dragging that truck this year. Like, just it went bang on the line. I'm like, huh, I ain't never done that before, but I think we just broke the sprag in it. And put it on the trailer and brought it home, swapped the converter out, and it was good to go again.
What would you say is the sweet spot for for power level on a 6 liter where you don't have those 1,000 horsepower problems? Is it 500 to 600? Is it 6 to 7, 6 to 650? Where would you say you can still have maybe not a 200,000 mile transmission, but you can go a distance between intervals you got to service stuff or have
Oh,
it
100,
refreshed?
100%. I have told people before, it gets down to, I think the funnest setup to drive and not have to worry about breaking things was like a 650 horsepower setup. It was a set of 250 100s and a 366 back when Ford SXE turbos were just coming out. I thought they were cool. Like those were the bee's knees. I had a 366 in the crew cab, and that was one of the funnest setups I ever had. You go beat on it all day, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it had a built trans in it then too. It was the one that eventually got what was the word? It got took out of the crew cab and put in the Pro Street truck when I started running that in the 670. But yeah, that setup of the 250 100s and a 366, or even if you get you get a good tune where it's tuned down, the 330 150s and a 369 is a blast of a setup to do because you have that little turbo that'll just light like nothing, and you can always pull fuel back on injectors. But yeah, I had a friend that had a set of 330 150s in a single cab, and I think it was the time when KC was he was venturing into ball bearing stuff. This was probably 5 years ago. It had a ball bearing 369, and I thought that was the funnest thing. It was like a little goat cart compared to getting out of the crew cab, going to the single cab, just rip around the street, and it probably made every bit of 750 horsepower. And you gotta have fun, beat on it, and you really didn't have to worry about it.
That's really cool to know because I think depending on somebody's goals, they can fall into one of the different setups that they want to do. But you did a really good job kind of outlining what to expect, what you might run into, for issues. And I always have a really great time chatting with you. Like your passion and excitement for talking diesels. I could probably do this podcast. We could keep going for probably another hour or two, just talking about all kinds of different stuff. But I love following you, seeing what you do. If people want to find you on Instagram or Facebook or any other platforms where you post the trucks, post the racing, how can they find you on social media?
I think every social media is Austin Denny 6.0. I try to hit TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, which Facebook's just Austin Denny. And then Evan started doing like a YouTube channel for us. Feel really bad about saying I don't exactly know the name of it. I want to say it's like 6 liters versus the world or something like that. But I think if you just look up my name, it pops up. It's got a lot of shorts on there. We started trying to venture into doing some like longer format videos, but it's just trying to get into it. And then this year has went with a little bit of frustrations. I'm not necessarily always excited to get in front of the camera when he wants to record stuff. But we're trying. So a lot of people say and reach out there like, dude, we want to see like during the week stuff of what you got going on. And stuff that I don't find that interesting anymore. Some people really would like to see. Like we blew an up pipe bellow at Scheid, and me and Alex just stood in the shop right before this. That's why I was a little bit late getting on here almost. We were putting the turbo back in it because we're going to try to go to Knoxville this weekend if work will be nice to us the rest of the week.
Well, very cool, Austin. I appreciate you taking some time today to chat with me. Like I said, I love hearing your excitement and passion for diesel. And I know the 6-liter fans, or if somebody just picked one up, they're thinking about doing a build. You gave us a lot of good tips for it. So keep me updated on the trucks. Let me know if you hit one of your goals or something you want to talk about. You're always more than welcome to come back on. But I really appreciate your time.
Everybody asking, the Pro Mod will be out soon. I promise. We haven't forgot about it. It sits there and looks at me in the shop every day. I get asked at least twice a week, when's the Pro Mod coming out? And it's coming. Good things take time.
That's why they got to follow you on social media so they can see right when it goes out.
That's a good answer.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com. Check out what they have. If you're in the market for a knife for EDC, hunting, fishing, something around the job site, around the house, they've got a complete lineup of knives designed to meet any budget. Tons of choices for different opening mechanisms, blade steel, blade shape, handle design. We really appreciate their support on the podcast. And if you're in the market, head on over, get some cool gear from them. Also, we recently started Rugged Threads Co. We wanted to be able to combine our passion for diesels and other things, other parts of the lifestyle, and put things on shirts, hats, mugs, things like that. I wanted to thank you guys for all your support, your orders. We've really been humbled and feel really grateful. The team here really came together, worked really hard to put a website together, do the graphic design. We appreciate, the guys that are shipping them out, packaging the orders. So I just wanted to thank you guys. We really appreciate it and look forward to bringing you guys more cool designs, things you'd want to wear, things you'd want to have on a mug or a hat, take to the office, to the track, things like that. So thank you guys. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters: Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, J Cole, CUTTERUP, Rob, Colby. We appreciate all of their support, all of our other Patreons, all of you who subscribe on YouTube, podcast apps, follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 8 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you guys more of the content that you want to hear in 2024. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.